But when you look now, what we have done as an LGBTQ community, I was talking with Billy Dixon about it this weekend. We have stepped to our side and said, if no one's going to do it for us, we're going to force our way in and we're going to do it for ourselves and we're going to clear our own path. And now that that path is starting to clear, it's apparent that a lot of companies are going to start gradually moving around. I always said that the reason WWE didn't do a lot more with the LGBTQ stuff wasn't because they were against it. It's really because they blew it with Billy and Chuck. They got way more negative backlash than they're used to. And they love being in the press, but they never want it to be something bad. And instead of trying again and saying, maybe we should try again and ask and say, look, we messed up, they were just scared to even dip their toe back in the water because the first time they did it, the water was cold. It's not necessarily that they're sitting around going, we'll never have a gay on this show. It's them sitting around going, we really don't know how to do it. And we're scared to ask because the last time 20 years ago, it didn't work out so well. So now when they see us able to succeed and seeing these ideas come to life and seeing that spirit in the LGBTQ community that is punk and we don't need you and we're going to do our own thing, it's becoming a little more exciting for them and it's becoming a little more attainable for them. And they're seeing that it actually makes money. And now with the ball back in our court, I hope over the next few years that not only are we featured prominently, but that it's really not that much of a deal anymore. I think the big idea of Effy is that Effy doesn't need to exist. That's where I want to get Effy to. When Effy doesn't need to be here and fuck with you and press the buttons and force the issues, then I'll just disappear and I'll help kids out in the back and I'll do the other stuff I do and I'll buy merch for new wrestlers so they can have a start. Let's get to that point. We are not there yet. But as we continue to be loud, we want to see the other companies copying us. We want to see them step to the plate. I joked with Jake Atlas because we had a long conversation after our match. And I said, look, I can yell at the building from the outside. It makes sense for me to do that. The only people who are actually going to change it are the people within the company who can force their hand and force their ear with their talent and their voice. And I'm not in there doing that. So I ask of you to at least give it a try and do it your way. I'm not asking you to be me. That is a more important thing that needs to happen. And we've got to force them to copy us because it's apparent we have some pretty good ideas. And they tend to use them in different ways than I would, but things show up and things happen that are a little pointy, and I don't mind it anymore. I want them to catch up. If we have to force them in a capitalistic way to catch up, then we're going to keep throwing the craziest shows. We're going to put on the wildest talent. We're going to show all the skills that you missed out on, all the storytelling you missed out on by not being inclusive for so long. And you'll have to just follow behind. I mean, you're getting lapped right now, even though you're in a bigger, fancier, faster, more expensive car.
When you see them take things that you've done, do you see it as a badge of honor? Like if for example, WWE's used content ideas that I've had out there first, and I'm like, hell yeah, that means it was a really good idea. And they're like, oh, we can monetize this, we can maximize this.
In my travels, I have met a lot of WWE employees, and I think inside the system, and this sounds very like diva of me, I think there's a general respect of what I'm doing, and I think there's a general excitement, and not just me, but about a lot of the stuff we're doing that they can't typically voice day to day, and they can't let out all the time. But the moment I figured it out, and this is the weirdest thing, and I'll give you a little hinter at the end, but I was doing a no-ring death match with Casanova Valentine in Orlando, Florida, and there was a lot of weird stuff on the show and a lot of weird stuff happening. And I walked out for my match and I looked over and I saw one of the NXT coaches there standing on the back wall, paying attention, watching. And I left and I went back outside to try to catch it again and they were already gone. And somebody was like, oh, do you think they're a fan of no-ring deathmatch wrestling? I said, no, I think they are a fan of the amount of connection we have with our audience, the trust we have in our audience, and the amount that they see a connection between someone like an Effy or a Casanova Valentine